When you think of refugees, individuals from unfamiliar cultures, immigrants, or non-native English speakers, what comes to mind? What words, images, or assumptions surface in your thoughts? Now, ask yourself, where do these ideas come from? Are they shaped by personal experiences, or are they shaped by media narratives and societal assumptions? I argue that many of these preconceived notions are not based in reality, but rather due to a lack of direct exposure with individuals from diverse backgrounds and cultures. What if I told you that the way in which you see the world is shaped by your perceptions, assumptions of others, has been shaped long before you were even aware of it? That your reactions, assumptions, and biases aren't even entirely your own, but rather ingrained in you by your environment and your upbringing. This concept is known as habitus, which French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu describes as the subconscious, deeply rooted set of dispositions that influences how we interpret and interact with the world around us. And habitus is powerful. It shapes not only our personal interactions with others, but also the institutions and societies that we build. And it also affects how we perceive cultural differences, whether we see that as a threat, an obstacle, or an opportunity. But habitus is not permanent. We all have the opportunity to rearrange, redefine, and reimagine. As a first-generation American with Chaldean, Iraqi, and refugee heritage, I have firsthand experienced the power of assumptions, as there were times I found myself fearful to describe my cultural background, afraid I might be reduced to a monolithic stereotype rather than seen as a complex and multifaceted individual. But this isn't quite unique to just me. I've met others who have also felt the same, who have found themselves being described by others before they had the opportunity to describe themselves. Take, for example, tutors working with non-native English learners. Do they perceive a language barrier as an intellectual deficit? Do they unconsciously simplify their words, believing that understanding is a struggle? Or think about how refugees are framed in political discourse. Are they seen as burdens to societies, individuals unable to participate in communities? How often do we hear of stories in these communities about resilience, creativity, or innovation? And these preconceived notions are not just harmless misinterpretations, but rather shape policymaking, institutions, and educations. And this is paramount, not only as an international relations student, but currently in our current social and political climate. These preconceived notions serve as silent barriers, impacting how we interact with the world around us and ultimately how inclusive our society is. This mindset, one that lacks a potential rather than seeing the opportunities, is the barriers mindset that hardens society. But here is the reality. We all have the opportunity to dismantle these barriers and embrace a humanity with richness for all. This is seen throughout my work through cross-cultural experiences in my work with refugees. As a tutor in Case Hall for food staff, I've experienced firsthand the power of dialogue that transcends barriers. As my Sudanese refugee student, Lul, originally was a shy and timid refugee student who later shared stories of resilience, discrimination that she had felt, and motherhood. These exemplify that fostering empathy heals communities. And this also exemplifies that listening to voices outside the mainstream is paramount. Similarly, thinking back to tutors I've had from around the world, such as India, Colombia, or Pakistan, these were not just lessons in academics or linguistics, but rather lessons in human connection, as each of these conversations dismantled any preconceived notion that I had. These experiences are mutually beneficial as I shared aspects of my own culture and learned parts of their language, and they shared with me as well. What makes these entirely important is that when we stop seeing cultural differences as barriers, we have the opportunity to unlock something truly profound. We have the opportunity to build beyond our preconceived notions and see the world not through division, but through shared humanity. This is why we should see the world through bridges rather than barriers, and the opportunity to embrace humanity for all. So you might be asking yourself, what is there that I can do? First, we all have the opportunity to seek out perspectives that are unique from our own, the opportunity to listen rather than judge. Secondly, I would encourage everyone to confront your own implicit biases and ask yourself, where do these ideas come from? Are they shaped by miscommunications or misinterpretations? And lastly, reframe how you see cultural differences, not as a source of division, but rather as an opportunity for learning and growth. And this is what I believe is a mutual beneficial future for all, rooted in cosmopolitanism, where we can mutually learn from other and grow for a more unified world for all. Thank you.